I was sitting in a lawyer's office, holding a court summons with trembling hands. My name was Edmund, a 32-year-old veteran who had just returned from Afghanistan with PTSD and a mild traumatic brain injury. I thought coming home meant safety, healing, and family support. But the papers in front of me told a different story. My parents had filed a petition with the court asking a judge to declare me mentally incompetent. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. Why would my own mother and father do this to me? What did I miss? I thought they loved me. Before I tell you how deep this betrayal goes, I need to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. If this story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because what I discovered about my own family will shake you to the core. Now let me take you back to where this nightmare began. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knew your name and your business. My family was solidly middle class. Dad worked as an accountant for a local manufacturing company, and Mom was a nurse at the county hospital. I had an older brother, Travis, who was 5 years my senior. From the time we were kids, Travis was the golden child. He excelled in school, played varsity football, and seemed to do everything right. I was always the second son, the one who existed in his shadow. Do not get me wrong, I loved my family, but I always felt like I was trying to catch up, trying to prove myself worthy of the same attention Travis received so effortlessly. When I turned 19, I made a decision that surprised everyone. I enlisted in the Army. I needed to find my own path, my own identity separate from being Travis's little brother. My parents were not thrilled, but they supported my choice. I remember my father shaking my hand at the recruitment center, his grip firm, but his eyes worried. Mom cried and made me promise to write every week. I served for 8 years, and they were the most defining years of my life. I deployed to Afghanistan twice. The first deployment was tough, but manageable. I learned what it meant to be part of a team, to trust the people next to you with your life. The second deployment, when I was 27, changed everything. Our convoy was hit by an IED on a routine patrol. The explosion was deafening. I remember the smell of burning metal and the taste of blood in my mouth. When I woke up in the field hospital, they told me I had a traumatic brain injury, shrapnel embedded in my shoulder, and I had lost partial hearing in my left ear. The physical wounds healed over time, but the invisible ones were harder to deal with. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. The nightmares came almost every night. Loud noises made me jump. Crowds made me anxious. The VA rated my disability at 70%. After completing my rehabilitation, I was honorably discharged. Along with my monthly disability compensation of $2,300, I received a one-time settlement of about $200,000. I used that money to buy a small house in the suburbs about 45 minutes from my hometown. It was a 3-bedroom ranch with a decent backyard. It cost me $350,000, and I was proud to own it. It was mine, a place where I could heal, where I could build a new life. When I finally made it back home to visit my parents, they seemed happy to see me. Mom hugged me tightly, and Dad patted my back with what felt like genuine warmth. But something felt off. I could not put my finger on it then, but looking back, I realized the signs were there from the beginning. Travis was also there that first day. He had gotten married while I was overseas, and now had 2 young children. But his life was not going well. He had lost his job as a sales manager 6 months earlier, and was struggling to find new employment. I overheard Mom and Dad talking about how much money they had been lending Travis to keep his family afloat. It seemed like every conversation eventually circled back to Travis and his problems. During that first visit, my parents kept asking questions that seemed innocent at the time, but now feel calculated. How much was my monthly VA check? What was my house worth? Did I have a financial plan? When I told them I was working with a financial advisor through the VA and managing just fine, they seemed disappointed. Dad suggested several times that maybe I should let them help manage my finances. After all, I had been through so much trauma. Would it not be easier to have someone else handle the bills and investments? I politely declined every time. I had worked hard to maintain my independence. Managing my own affairs was part of my recovery. part of proving to myself that I was still capable. But every time I said no, I noticed my parents exchanging glances. Mom's smile would tighten. Dad would change the subject abruptly. About a month after that first visit, I stopped by their house unannounced. I still had a spare key from years ago. I walked in and heard voices coming from the kitchen. It was Travis and Mom, and they were having an intense conversation. I paused in the hallway, not meaning to eavesdrop, but their words froze me in place. Mom was saying something about me not cooperating. Her voice had an edge I had never heard before. She said, "If Edmund will not do this voluntarily, we need to find another way." Travis responded, "He does seem pretty unstable though, right? The PTSD thing is real. We could use that." My stomach dropped. I walked into the kitchen and they both went silent immediately. The guilty looks on their faces told me everything. They were planning something. I asked what they were talking about, but Mom just smiled and said they were discussing Travis's job search. I knew it was a lie. That night I could not sleep. The conversation kept replaying in my mind. I told myself I was being paranoid, that my PTSD was making me suspicious. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. 3 months later, on a cold Tuesday morning in November, I received a certified letter. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a court summons. My parents had filed a petition with the county probate court, seeking to have me declared mentally incompetent. They were requesting to be appointed as my conservators, which would give them complete control over my finances and property. I read the document 3 times, unable to believe what I was seeing. The petition claimed I was unable to manage my own affairs due to severe PTSD and brain injury. It stated that I was at risk of being exploited or making poor financial decisions. It was all lies, or at least gross exaggerations. My first instinct was to call them. I needed to hear their voices to understand why they would do this. Dad answered the phone. His voice was cold and matter-of-fact. He said, "We knew you would get the papers today. Edmund, this is for your own good." I demanded an explanation. How was trying to take away my rights for my own good? Mom got on the line and her voice was syrupy, sweet the way it used to be when I was a child, and she was trying to manipulate me into doing something I did not want to do. She said, "Honey, you have been through so much. You have PTSD. You cannot possibly manage all that money and property on your own. We just want to help you." I told them I was doing fine, that I was in therapy, that I had a support system, that I did not need their help. Dad's voice turned sharp. He said I was being stubborn and ungrateful. He said Travis agreed this was the best thing for me. That stung. My own brother was in on this too. When I hung up, I felt completely alone. The next day, I went to see a lawyer who specialized in veterans' rights. His name was Leonard Hayes, and he came highly recommended by my VA counselor. Mr. Hayes was a tall man in his 60s, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. He read through the petition carefully, his expression growing darker with each page. Finally, he looked up at me and said, "Edmund, if the court grants this petition, your parents will control everything. Your bank accounts, your disability payments, and most importantly, your house. They could sell your property without your consent." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My house, the one thing I had built for myself. Mr. Hayes asked me a critical question. Had anyone in my family expressed interest in my property? That was when I remembered. Travis had visited my house once, about 2 months after I bought it. He had walked through every room, commenting on how nice it was, how spacious, how perfect it would be for a family. He had said, "I wish I had a place like this. My kids would love that backyard." At the time, I thought he was just being complimentary. Now his words took on a sinister meaning. Mr. Hayes leaned forward and said, "We need evidence. Can you access any documents from your parents' house? Anything that might show their true intentions?" I thought about the spare key I still had. I knew it was risky, but I needed to know the truth. 2 days later, I drove to my parents' house during working hours. My heart pounded as I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house was empty and eerily quiet. I went straight to Dad's home office. I had been in this room countless times as a kid, but now it felt foreign and threatening. I started searching through his filing cabinet. That was when I found it. A folder labeled Edmund Legal Matters tucked in the back of the bottom drawer. Inside that folder was a nightmare. There were draft petitions dated 6 months earlier, right after I had bought my house. There were email printouts between my parents and a different lawyer discussing strategies to prove I was unstable. They had been planning this before I even knew they were unhappy with my independence. But the worst discovery was near the bottom of the folder. It was a prepared quitclaim deed, a legal document used to transfer property ownership. The deed was already filled out, transferring my house from my name to Travis's name. It was marked as a gift. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and photographed every document. There was an email from Mom that made my blood run cold. She had written, "Travis needs this house more than Edmund does. He has a family. Edmund is alone and does not need such a big place. Once we have conservatorship, we can sell the house and give it to Travis. We can use Edmund's VA money to put him in a facility if needed. They were going to take everything from me. They were going to steal my home, my independence, my dignity, and give it all to my brother. And they had been planning it for months." I left the house in a daze, feeling like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. These were the people who raised me, who were supposed to love me unconditionally. But they were willing to destroy my life to benefit Travis. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound I had received in combat. I brought the evidence to Mr. Hayes the next morning. He spread the photographs across his desk, shaking his head in disbelief. He said, "This is fraud. This is financial exploitation. Edmund, we have a very strong case." But having a strong case did not make the pain any less. I decided I needed to confront my family directly. I needed to look them in the eye and let them know I knew everything. I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a family restaurant downtown. I chose a public place because I did not trust what might happen in private. When I arrived, my parents and Travis were already seated in a booth. They looked uncomfortable, but there was also a hint of defiance in their expressions. I sat down across from them and placed the folder of evidence on the table. I said simply, "I know everything." The color drained from Travis's face. Mom's eyes widened. Dad tried to maintain his composure, but I saw his jaw tighten. Travis was the first to speak. He tried to sound reasonable, saying, "Edmund, you do not understand. We are just trying to help you. You have been through trauma. You are not thinking clearly." I opened the folder and pulled out the prepared deed, transferring my house to him. I slid it across the table. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom started crying. She said, "How could you invade our privacy like that? We raised you. We sacrificed for you. And this is how you repay us." I could not believe what I was hearing. They were trying to steal from me, and somehow I was the bad guy for discovering their plan. Dad's mask finally slipped. His voice turned cold and threatening. He said, "If you do not cooperate, we will win in court. You have PTSD. You are unstable. Any judge will see that." I reached into my pocket and placed my phone on the table. The recording app was running. I said, "I have been recording this entire conversation." Travis exploded. He stood up, knocking his water glass over. He pointed at me and said through gritted teeth, "You are going to regret this. You have no idea what you just did." I stood up calmly, looked at each of them one last time, and walked out. I did not look back. As I drove home, I felt strangely calm. Yes, I had just lost my family, but I had also just saved myself. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Hayes worked tirelessly on my case. He filed a counterpetition with the court presenting all the evidence I had gathered. He submitted my medical records from the VA, showing that while I had PTSD, I was in active treatment and making excellent progress. He included a letter from my therapist stating, "Edmund is one of my most dedicated patients. He faces his trauma head-on and is doing remarkably well. He is fully capable of managing his own affairs and poses no danger to himself or others." We also submitted my bank statements showing I had been managing my finances responsibly, paying all bills on time, and even building a savings account. My parents hired an expensive lawyer to fight back. Their strategy was to paint me as dangerous and unpredictable. They found an incident from 2 months earlier when I had had a nightmare and in my sleep knocked over a lamp and broke it. They tried to present this as evidence that I was violent and out of control. Travis even attempted to secretly record me during a panic attack, but I caught him and confronted him about it. The day of the court hearing arrived. I wore my dress uniform with my medals. I wanted the judge to see me as a soldier who had served my country, not as a helpless victim. The courtroom was small and sterile. My parents and Travis sat on one side with their lawyer. I sat on the other side with Mr. Hayes. Their lawyer went first, painting a picture of a man broken by war, unable to function in normal society, in desperate need of protection from his own poor judgment. He emphasized my PTSD diagnosis, the brain injury, the incident with the broken lamp. He made me sound like I was one step away from complete collapse. It was hard to sit there and listen to myself being described that way. Then Mr. Hayes presented our case. He methodically went through the evidence of their financial motive. When he presented the quitclaim deed, the judge's eyebrows shot up. The judge, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, looked directly at my father and asked, "Can you explain why you prepared this document before even filing the petition for conservatorship?" My father stammered. He said they were just planning ahead, trying to think about all possibilities. The judge's expression made it clear she was not buying it. She asked pointedly, "Planning ahead for what exactly? To take your son's house and give it to your other son?" Then it was my turn to testify. I walked to the witness stand, my heart pounding. But as I started speaking, a calm came over me. I explained my daily routine. I worked part-time at a non-profit organization that helped veterans navigate the VA system. I attended therapy every week. I participated in a veterans support group every Tuesday evening. I managed my household, paid my bills, maintained relationships with friends. I was building a life, not falling apart. My therapist also testified. She spoke about my progress, my resilience, my determination to heal. She said I was a model patient who took his recovery seriously. Then Mr. Hayes played the recording from the restaurant. The courtroom was silent as everyone heard my father's cold voice saying, "If you do not cooperate, we will win in court." The threat hung in the air. Even my parents' lawyer looked uncomfortable. The judge took a brief recess to review all the evidence. Those 30 minutes felt like hours. When she returned, her face was stern. She looked at my parents and said, "I have reviewed all the evidence presented today. It is clear to this court that the petitioner's son, Edmund, is fully capable of managing his own affairs. His PTSD, while a serious condition, does not render him incompetent. In fact, the evidence shows he is managing his condition admirably." She paused, then continued with steel in her voice. "What is also clear is that the petitioners have a significant financial motive for seeking conservatorship. The evidence of a pre-prepared deed to transfer property is deeply troubling and suggests this petition was filed in bad faith." The judge denied the petition in its entirety. But she did not stop there. She issued a restraining order, preventing my parents and Travis from contacting me for 1 year. She ordered them to pay my legal fees, which totaled about $15,000. And she said she was forwarding the case file to the district attorney's office for potential fraud investigation. When the gavel came down, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders that I had been carrying for months. My parents and Travis left the courtroom without looking at me. Their faces were ashen. They had gambled and lost. And in doing so, they had lost me forever. The weeks following the trial were strange. I had won a complete victory in court, but I felt hollow. I had lost my entire family. There were moments, especially late at night, when I wondered if I had done the right thing. But then I would remember what they had tried to do, and I knew I had no choice. I threw myself into healing. I increased my therapy sessions to twice a week. My therapist helped me work through not just the combat trauma, but this new betrayal trauma. She helped me understand that what my family did was a form of abuse, and that protecting myself from it was not only justified but necessary. My job at the Veterans Nonprofit became more than just a way to fill time. It became my purpose. I was helping other veterans navigate the same VA system that had helped me. I was giving back to the community that had supported me through my darkest days. My supervisor noticed my dedication and offered me a full-time position as a program coordinator. For the first time since leaving the Army, I felt like I had a real career, a real future. The veterans support group I attended became my new family. These were people who understood what I had been through, both in combat and in the betrayal aftermath. One guy in particular, Marcus, became my closest friend. He was a Marine who had served 3 tours in Iraq. He had also been estranged from his family, though, for different reasons. One night after group over coffee, Marcus said something that stuck with me. He said, "Family is not always blood. Family is who stands by you when things get tough." Those words helped me reframe everything. I had a family. It just looked different than I thought it would. About 6 months after the trial, I received a letter in the mail. It was from my mother. My hands shook as I opened it. Part of me hoped it would be a real apology, an acknowledgement of the harm they had caused. But as I read, I realized it was just more of the same. She said she was sorry I was hurt, but insisted they had only wanted to help me. She said Travis was struggling financially, and they had thought giving him my house would solve everyone's problems. There was no recognition that what they had done was wrong. No real accountability. I put the letter in a drawer and never responded. Some relationships cannot be repaired, and that is okay. My life started to come together in unexpected ways. Through the nonprofit, I met a woman named Sarah. She was also a veteran Air Force, and she volunteered with our outreach program. We started talking at an event, and I found myself drawn to her easy laugh and genuine warmth. We started dating slowly, both of us carrying our own wounds, both of us healing. She understood the nightmares, the hypervigilance, the struggle to feel normal. She never judged me for it, because she had been there too. My house, the one my family had tried to steal, became more than just a building. It became a home in the truest sense. I started hosting monthly barbecues for the veterans group. My backyard, which I had once wandered alone, now filled with laughter, music, and friendship. I planted a garden and found the physical work therapeutic. Sarah helped me paint the living room a warm golden color. We picked out furniture together. Every change I made to the house was an act of reclaiming it, of making it truly mine. I also started volunteering as a peer mentor for newly returned veterans. I would meet with guys just back from deployment, help them navigate the VA system, and most importantly, just listen. I knew what it was like to feel lost and alone. If I could help even one person avoid that feeling, it was worth it. Looking back now, almost 2 years after that terrible day in court, I realized something important. My parents and Travis did not destroy me. They tried to, but they failed. In trying to take everything from me, they accidentally gave me something invaluable. They forced me to stand up for myself, to fight for my independence, to prove that I was capable and strong. The Edmund who walked into that courtroom was a different person than the Edmund who first received that summons. I had found a strength I did not know I possessed. I do not hate my parents or my brother. Hate requires too much energy, and I need that energy for building my life. I have let go of the anger, though the sadness still lingers sometimes. I grieve for the family I thought I had, for the relationships that could have been. But I do not regret my choice. I deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. I deserve to live my life on my own terms, and so does every other person who has ever been betrayed by the people who should have protected them. My therapist asked me once what I learned from this whole experience. I thought about it for a long time before answering. I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you become the ones you need protection from. I learned that family is not defined by blood, but by loyalty, respect, and love. I lost my parents and my brother, but I gained something far more valuable. I gained my freedom, my dignity, and a community that truly cares. And you know what? I would make the same choice again. Because I deserve better. We all do. Have you ever had to stand up to your own family to protect yourself? Have you experienced betrayal from people you trusted most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear your stories, because sharing these experiences helps all of us heal. If this story touched you in any way, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, because there are more stories like this that need to be told. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear it, someone who might be going through their own struggle with family betrayal. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you strength if you are facing your own battles. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you deserve to be treated with respect and love. Take care of yourselves out there.